This person asked, would you please do a quick tip on setting up a simple still life? How to set up a subject, lighting, and so forth. Working from photos is much easier as we're going from 2-dimension to 2-dimension. But in order to advance my painting, I'd like to do my own still life paintings and then progress to plein air. Well, I have some clues for you on that one. I'm going to say something controversial now, and that is, if any teacher tells you you need to spend a whole lot of money in order to do anything about painting, it's time for you to do some research. And the setting up the still life for painting is one of those things, because there are a lot of people that will instruct you that you need a certain set of light boxes and all kinds of little gizmos in order to set up a still life. Well, I would suggest that rather than go with that sort of thinking, investigate how the master still artists in history have done their still life paintings. And you will find out that those that are really masters at still life painting paint things in their natural environment or somewhat a natural environment. So what I advise rather than that is to go simple. And when you go simple, the only thing you really need, and you really don't need this if you can figure a way to get around it, you need to be able to have a light that you can position in any position you want it. Now what I suggest for that, if you might ask for Christmas or some birthday present or something like that, is a swing arm lamp on rollers, such as I have here. And you can see that on rollers I can pull it around. I can raise the height of it. I can change the angle of it. I can pull it around to any angle or any position that I want it and provide reasonable light. It doesn't need to be a sophisticated light, just a good light. And this has in it just well, it has an LED light bulb in it, but any good light bulb, about 100 watts or something like that, will do. Now, that having been said, to get your information about what you need for setting up the still life, go to the masters, or go to those who are masterful at painting still life painters. Now, in my opinion, one of the most masterful still life painters today is Chang Huang, spelled Qiang, Huang, if you want to look him up. But you can go to Richard Schmid's website and see how he sets up still lifes. Or if you happen to have his Alla Prima book, which is wonderful, there are a number of still life paintings in there. Look at what he's done there. What are his prerequisites for still life? So if we look at, this is Chang Huang. And if you look here, what are the elements he has in there? Now, very generally, he has a table or a surface on which to put his still life images, and he has a background, or usually a wall, or sometimes fabric, sometimes just hanging some fabric somehow behind the still life. And I noticed that Richard Schmid a lot of times will hang fabric behind and drape it down and then put the still life images on that. That sort of thing is very simple, and you can set that up with your imagination, anything around the house. Oh, back to lighting. Also, you could set this up in a window and use window lighting. And so you can use your imagination there and gain a lot of latitude in the images and the background and surface that you set the still life painting on. So let's look at what Chang Huang has done here and show you how to go to other artists and look at the kinds of images they've used and how they've arranged those images. And there's nothing wrong with your arranging similar images, and not only the images themselves, but the number of images and the kind of images. So I've got, I think, 4 here that I just want to show you and show you how to do that. So if you go to his site, for example, and you see this painting, you see he has the background, he has the surface on which the images are placed, he has 2 objects that are pretty much the same size and the same characteristics. They both have roundness in them. And you notice how he set them up. One is facing one way, one's facing the other, and they are overlapped. There's your clue for setting up your still life. Notice also that he has another object, a small one over here, that is quite different from those. That helps to add interest to the still life. But this is very, very simple. 3 objects, about as simple as you can get. So there are some characteristics there, criteria that you might follow. One is, sometimes people will tell you need all of your images different sizes. Well, you see, these are not. But it doesn't hurt to have some kind of a contrasting image. So if you have, you could have different sizes, or you could have different kinds of shapes. So we have the square versus the more rounded or organic shapes here. And overlapping is very important, as you see here, although space between images is also important. So there's one way that you could set up a still life for yourself. Find 2 objects similar size, maybe one a little taller than the other, overlap them, face one out in one direction, face the other in the other direction. In other words, you're doing exactly what he's done here. And find another image, simple image, of a different kind of shape, such as he's done here, and place it with space between them. You see there? That's how you analyze. You look, what has the artist used, and then what has the artist done. Now here he's done something a little bit different. He's used a rounded object, and he's used organic stuff. You know, in this case, he's used foliage from some sort of bush or tree. It looks like bamboo, but it doesn't matter. And you can see that there's lots of texture, nice little textural stuff that's created by that foliage. It gives us contrast. So you always need some kind of contrast, and you always need some kind of similarity. And then you can see here he's got one largest object. He's got a taller, more transparent object over here. He's got space between them. And the thing that unites it together are how he's arranged the foliage around it. Then he's got a plate, it seems, on the background, which is also a rounded shape, kind of echoing the shape of this. Another rounded shape here, very much smaller, and then a totally different shape here. So you could do that sort of thing. You could look at the characteristics, how he's arranged, and set up something similar. And after you've done that several times, you'll get the knack of how you set up still life. So let's look at 2 more of his. If I can get the images separated here. There we go. There we go. Now, you notice the first 2, his background was dark, light in these. The background is light, and the surface, the tablecloth or whatever surface he's used. In other words, he's used for the negative space in these 2. He's used relative light to middle, mostly, and dark is subordinate, as you see here. He's done just the reverse here. Same principle for finding the objects, for the kinds of objects he's used. He's using rounded objects here. He's used overlap, same principles as we saw him use overlap in the other 2. He's overlapped smaller object in front of 2 larger objects. Overlap there, and we have a smaller, rounder one over here and over here to separate that, to kind of add interest to that space. So this is primarily, he's set it at more of a dark environment with the light more like the Rembrandt lighting, where the light is in the minor, the dark is in the major, or you might say that dark is dominant and light is subordinate. And this is when he's done a similar thing. Low lighting. We can see here similar combination of choices as he made in the second one I showed you, where we have some foliage, or we have some organic materials, life stuff here. That helps to give it more interest, helps to give it more texture. You have a little bit of the texture on this design of this sugar dish here, but we don't have the organic stuff in here, so you don't have to have anything. You just make your selections, but have a reason for making them. And then again, all of these, you notice you have the overlap, and then you have the objects that are located away from overlap, or that are not necessarily overlap, to help create the interest. Now, other things that you notice, like here, are other choices that you might make, where you have horizontal and vertical. So you might emphasize, with the objects that you choose or the images that you choose, you might emphasize horizontal and vertical, like he's done there. Here, there is not so much the horizontal, the whole image is horizontal, but here the rounded shapes are more emphasized in kind of a triangular arrangement. But the point is, don't make it too complex. Just choose the major kinds of things that he's chosen and the major kinds of arrangements. It doesn't have to be the same images at all. Major kinds of things he's chosen, and then something about the arrangement with the overlap and there's other images that have a space between. Now you go to the Richard Schmid and you're going to find that he sometimes will push it just as far as he can. He will have a whole bunch of stuff, but will have it grouped in such a way you're going to see an organization there. You're going to see things that are similar, things that are different, and you're going to see things that are grouped together, juxtaposed with things that are more isolated. So there are all kinds of things, but I suggest starting simple, maybe with one artist whose work you know to be trusted, not, oh, I don't want to be ugly, but not someone who's just beginning, or not someone who's, well, just trust me on this. Start with these two and you'll be doing well. But keeping it simple to begin with, and then choosing, making it a little bit more complex with each one that you do from that point on. You'll get your own ideas of how the still life that you set up will work best for you, and also will be best for your ability to communicate. Let me add one thing. Choosing things that you like to look at, or things that you enjoy, images that you enjoy, is important to that. So don't just throw stuff in that you hate, because you won't enjoy painting something you hate. Be sure and view all of our quick tips. And while you're doing so, subscribe to the channel, click on the bell, so you'll always get a notice when we produce a new quick tip, which is every week. And if you have a question, leave it in the comments section and we'll make a quick tip for you. Also, take a trip over to DianeMize.com, where I have full-length lessons, downloads, DVDs, lots of other stuff there, some free stuff for you. And while you're there, you can subscribe to the newsletter, and that way you'll always be informed every time we do something new.